Good morning. This is video number 21 of my set of 31 videos that I'm doing for those who are interested in using their glucose meter as a fuel gauge. Most of the information I'm sharing here comes from DataDriven Fasting and TrimHealthyMama, but using a glucose meter as a fuel gauge can be done with any diet and does not require exercise. I'm back in Texas, just getting back yesterday from Florida, a short visit there to one of our adult children, and I'm back on my tread desk. But like I say, this does not require exercise. For anyone who's been watching my daily videos, you may have noticed by now that I did not put up a video yesterday. I was traveling and the airport was just packed in Florida, and I was not comfortable trying to record in front of an audience, or I don't even like to take a phone call and have people overhear me when I'm in an airport, so certainly wasn't going to take time to do a video. So I pushed it back to today, but I'm still ahead of the 30-day challenge group that a bunch of people are participating in through optimizingnutrition.com and the DataDriven Fasting, one of the DataDriven Fasting challenges. I'm recording this on Tuesday, the 14th of March, and the information for this video is for the 20th day. So I'll get this video uploaded, and then it'll be available for those that are actually doing the $37 paid Data-Driven Fasting Challenge with a group. And I'm going to mention some questions at the end of this video of some of the questions people in the challenge are asking and the answers that they're getting. The topic for day 20 is front load your protein to hack your satiety. Marty Kendall of optimizingnutrition.com writes, our analysis of 500,000 days of food logging showed that those who consumed more protein earlier in the day ate fewer calories throughout the day. He goes on to say, if you want to eat less and lose weight, you should do what you can to ensure your first full meal is hearty and full of plenty of protein. An example would be eggs for breakfast. He says, conversely, bulletproof coffee is likely less than optimal. I know that a lot of people think that will be a good option to have bulletproof coffee in the morning if they want to keep their insulin levels low. But fat is not a free food. It has calories, and those calories are not nutrient dense. I have shared about eggs in another video that I did earlier on in this series of 31 videos, and I'm going to put up a graphic about the advantages of eating eggs, but I'm also going to include in the description box some information that will help re-educate you about eggs and whether or not they are harmful to your cholesterol blood levels. I've got a couple more things to share related to eggs and cholesterol, and then I'll move on to some ideas about protein. Pearl, one of the TrimHealthyMama sisters authors, says that studies have shown that eggs usually have a normalizing effect on total cholesterol, raising HDL too. HDL is the healthy cholesterol. If you are concerned and want to do as your doctor advises, you can drop down to 1 egg and use extra whites. That would lower the yolk ratio in your getting protein from eggs. She also, last thing I'll add from her is there is much value in making sure to have plenty of leafy greens and fiber in your diet, which helps ensure that excess cholesterol is flushed out. And now I'll put up a screenshot of an image from one of Marty's articles, and the article title is Cholesterol, When to Worry and What to Do About It. So that will be linked in the description box for you. A whole bunch of information about eggs, research that has disproven the whole cholesterol scare from eggs, and then this link from Marty's article. I'm putting up a screenshot of a 6-minute video by Dr. Ben Bickman, who studies insulin, and that's connected to cholesterol issues as well. High cholesterol usually is in conjunction with high insulin and vice versa, but he talks about the combination of fats and carbs being a problem, and how it didn't used to be that we would have this combination of cheap processed carbs and seed oils together. The fats that we would have consumed in the past were more from animal fats, butter, and the fats with animal proteins, like when we were having cheese or steak or dark meat, fowl, poultry, that would have fats in it naturally. So I'll link his 6-minute video here. His screenshot is just to show you what that video looks like and where it's from levels. Fats and carbs and proteins are the 3 levers that we get to play around with, and we can help ourselves if we will lead with protein, as day 20 focuses on front loading with protein. And sometimes when people are asking me, well, what do I use for that protein? What are some of my options? Because we get in these ruts of thinking only certain ways about protein. So I'm putting up a screenshot that lists some foods that are highest in protein. And the reason I got on the topic of eggs and defending them, even though they've gotten a bad rap for cholesterol, defending them because they are one of the top protein sources in this protein meter image, eggs and chunky peanut butter. Now, obviously, chunky peanut butter is going to come with both fats and carbs in it, and protein. It's kind of a mixture of those things. And then there's skim milk and tofu and non-fat Greek yogurt. I find the beauty of the non-fat Greek yogurt as a TrimHealthyMama is I can take that item of non-fat Greek yogurt and I can use it to either make a fat-fueled meal or a carb-fueled meal, depending on what I put with it. And then there's low-fat cottage cheese and salmon. Salmon's gonna kind of lend itself to fat-fueled meals because it's a little bit fattier meat. And chicken breast will lend itself to the meals that we could use carbs as our main fuel in, the E-meals, because chicken breast is a lean meat. Same with sliced turkey. So anyway, that image will maybe spark some ideas in you about protein options. As we work toward trying to achieve reaching our personal hunger trigger of our glucose, and mine is 79 now, we serve ourselves best if we first focus on protein and then nutrients, and then figure out whether we're going to have fats or carbs with it, whether we need more energy with that meal. And I've shared Ted Naiman's low energy diet, which seems hard for my brain to deal with because I want to think of, energy as I need energy, but energy is fat or carbs, and that's the sense in which he's using it. I'll go back to Marty's day 20 article about front load your protein to hack your satiety. So we're leading with protein because that gives us an advantage as we're trying to lose weight and we're trying to help our body reaching our personal hunger trigger. Marty writes, when you feel hungry, you often don't know what your body wants, but your body always needs protein. So it's wise to front load protein at your first meal of the day. Later, you can add some fuel from fats or carbs based on your blood sugars and hunger levels. Front loading protein is not only good for satiety, but it's a great hack to reduce blood glucose. And that's what we're doing with data-driven fasting. We're trying to reduce our blood glucose. Many people find that their blood sugars quickly fall below their trigger after they have a high protein meal. So then they can eat again sooner. He gives a couple of options on how to manage your meals. He says one option is to eat a sizable protein-dense breakfast before work, a small protein-focused lunch, and then enjoy a family dinner after work once your glucose has dropped. In another scenario, you may have coffee upon rising, black coffee or with just a dash of milk or cream. That won't affect your insulin a whole lot, probably won't affect your blood glucose a whole lot, but personally I go for black coffee. Okay, so have that just black coffee in the morning. That's my recommendation. And then eat a large cooked meal in the middle of the day, or a large meal in the middle of the day, protein focused, and finish it with a moderate family dinner after work. So that would look like 2 meals a day. His first option of the sizable protein-dense breakfast, a small protein-focused lunch, and then a family dinner after work once your glucose has dropped, almost makes me think of the images of the breakfast like a king, dine like a prince, and sup like a pauper. But he's got a family dinner there as a third meal of that day. Your body's going to be the most content if you do get in a good amount of protein earlier in the day, and if you get in your nutrition that your body wants. Because once those things are met, your protein and your nutrition, your brain kind of settles down food-wise. But I'll go back to my example of you could get a whole lot of calories through eating a bag of Oreos, a bag of potato chips. Lots of calories, but it's not going to satisfy your body in terms of protein and nutrients. And so even if you've gone way over your calorie needs, we do have calorie needs, obviously. Calories are energy, a way to measure energy, but they're not all equal. I showed a picture the other day in one of the videos of an apple and a can of soda. They had about the same amount of calories, certainly not the same amount of nutrition. So, and another thing people sometimes need to learn when they come into data-driven fasting is, well, how do I get more nutrients? And so I'm going to put up a screenshot of a blog post of Marty's, nutrient-dense meals and recipes, and here's a great freebie for you. He says in this linked blog post that I'm going to have in the description box, this article will show you how to access our secret database of nutrient-dense meals for free. So the man gives away so much. You don't have to be in a challenge. You don't have to pay $37. You can learn everything you need to on his website. But a lot of people feel the need to do this with other people for the accountability, for the learning process. And there's one of the questions I think addresses that, about how many times somebody has come back because they keep learning something. Anyway, so his nutrient-dense meals and recipes blog post will be linked in the description box, and in there it will direct you how to find some easy nutrient-dense meals and recipes. I've switched locations. Now I'm in husband's study, so he can have the family room and take a rest. We've had our dinner time together at the table, and now he's wanting some quiet in the evening, and me chattering along in the family room is not quiet. I'm going to put up an image I'm looking at on the computer screen here, titled The 11 Most Nutrient-Dense Foods on the Planet per 100 grams. And some of the things that were on the other list I showed you are on here. Salmon is here. So egg yolk is here. Egg yolk is actually the most nutrient-dense thing of the egg. Kale and blueberries. I see seaweed is on this list, and that makes me think of nori sheets. I like to buy nori sheets at the health food store, and I use them with Asian type dishes. I like to have rice, and I'm willing to eat white rice and brown rice. And yesterday was it? There was a post in TrimHealthyMama about black rice. So I'll put that image up on the screen. I took 4 images and put them together as one, and maybe you can read the fine print of it. Let me find that image. Now the rabbit trail from my brain goes back to the seaweed, and that making me think of using nori sheets, and that making me think of rice. And then I thought of the blog post the other day from TrimHealthyMama about black rice. So I'm putting up this image of 4 screenshots that I put together into one about black rice from TrimHealthyMama. And number 1, it has the highest level of anthocyanin antioxidant, and that anthocyanins are linked to positive health effects, including inflammatory properties. Makes me think it has to be reducing inflammation, healthier arteries, and better insulin regulation, which is very helpful when one is trying to have healthy glucose numbers. It's also the friendliest rice to the waistline because it's higher in protein and fiber, higher than brown rice, white rice, or red rice. I haven't heard of red rice. And it's lower in carbs than white or brown rice. And then number 3, may reduce the risk of heart attacks and strokes. I looked up a couple of my old Facebook posts that I remembered I had mentioned black rice in. So back in 2020, I had posted a meal that I'll show you that would have been great to add the nori sheets to, but I can't tell from the meal whether I did that or not. But and I can't share that post with you because it's not an open post. It's in my private fasting and feasting by meter Facebook page. Though I'll put a link to the Facebook page in there if you want to come request joining the page. But that's neither here nor there. And then there's another one that I was talking about cooking black rice in my Instant Pot, and it was the first time I had learned to use the delay start function on the Instant Pot after having it for a couple of years. And in that post I see that purple rice and black rice, they're the same thing. For marketing purposes, they probably just labeled the box purple rice. But anyway, that purple rice is black rice. And I had included an image in there. So I'll put those images up on in the video here. And then there's one more image I have to share with you about black rice. This image was an image I was sharing in that THM Instant Pot Facebook group I have. I'll put a link to that group too, in case you want to find it. And I was sharing about the health benefits of black rice. And it's says that black rice turns purple in color after cooking, which is probably why the rice that I found was marketed as purple rice. It says it's full of dietary fiber, boosts metabolism in the body, and helps fight obesity. Rich in antioxidants, vitamin E, minerals, and fiber. That's good for the skin, eye, and immune system. The amount of anthocyanin in black rice is higher than any other grain, including white rice, brown rice, or quinoa. It says it helps improve brain function and reduce inflammation. It says that the phytonutrients in the rice help in cleaning the body naturally. So it's a natural detoxifier. And then it ends with a rich source of fiber and proteins. The rice reduces bad cholesterol. And there we're looping back around to the topic of cholesterol, and it helps fight diabetes too. So those are the images about black rice. And now I think I need to check what else I'm going to wrap this video up with, including the questions that I said were shared in the DataDriven Fasting Challenge, 30-day challenge group. So I'll be right back with that. This morning, as I was going through the DataDriven Fasting Challenge thread of things people are sharing for this February 25th to March 26th 30-day challenge. This is our 21st challenge that the group has done. And anyway, questions come up, and Marty does a great job of answering them, and sometimes people that are experienced in this contribute answers as well. But I thought this question was a great one to share with you. This gentleman asks, he says he's having issues reaching his trigger all of a sudden. He says for multiple days his glucose has stayed around his waking value, and sometimes it has even risen, even though he hasn't eaten anything. He says he waits and he waits, but it's not dropping. Then he wants to know if he should reset his baseline and start from the beginning and get a different trigger value. Starting to wonder if his meter has gone crazy, and then he says, what is suggested to do? So Marty points him to the frequently asked question, what if my blood glucose doesn't drop below my trigger for the whole day? And there's an answer there. As you start to make progress and burn through excess glucose stores, your body will start a new normal. Some days you may not see your blood glucose fall below your trigger and wonder if you were allowed to eat at all that day. This is where you can fall back on the idea of a main meal and discretionary meals. If your blood glucose is above your trigger, despite still feeling hungry, you can choose to eat one less meal than usual that day. For example, if you usually have 3 meals, you can choose to have 2. If you usually have 2 meals, you can drop back to only your main meal. But he says, we don't recommend you try to skip full days of eating, as you risk becoming overly hungry and then binging on less optimal foods when refueling. So ultimately, if your blood glucose is slightly above your trigger, the DDF app will suggest that you focus on nutrient-dense foods with a higher protein percentage so that you can eat because you're hungry, but that means you're not giving yourself a fuel of carbs or fats. You're focusing on the lean proteins and the non-starchy veggies, especially the greens, because they're so dense with nutrients. I'll put up an image of greens, and sometimes we forget that there's more options than just lettuce and spinach and kale. There's a whole plethora of options. So that image may spark some things in your mind about greens. And then there's lots of other non-starchy veggies. And this reminds me of Ted Naiman's low energy diet. That image has all these ideas on it of food choices that you could make, and that would be accomplishing giving your body protein and nutrients without giving your body a bunch of energy from fats and carbs. So the gentleman says, thanks, Marty. That I hope that's what it is. And then he says, I guess I should reread it all. And then Marty adds another comment. He says, reaching your trigger can get harder towards the end of the 30-day challenge. Sometimes glucose can rise a little as your insulin drops and your stored energy is released. So your insulin comes down, glucagon then goes into action, and it tells the body to release some stored energy, turn it back into glucose. So we can see our glucose go up even when we haven't eaten, because that's our body is releasing energy, and so our glucose is going up, and we can get discouraged by that because we're wanting our glucose number to fall. But it's a good thing sometimes to see glucose rise again. You go down, and then you might take your glucose value a little bit later and see it's gone up. Well, that just means that you went down far enough that glucagon kicked into action and released some stored energy from your fat stores, turning it back into glucose. So your body has that circulating fuel. Let's go back to what Marty says here. Other factors like stress can be at play also. If there's no obvious reason, then the answer is prioritizing protein when you're hungry and above your trigger. That will work for you. You'll keep draining your energy stored. It should say you keep draining your stored energy, and your glucose will likely fall back into line before too long. And then when we get to the end of this 30 days, it's a good idea to back off a little bit. Maybe that's when we can use an option in the DataDriven fasting app of maintenance. And maintenance will give us a little bit higher glucose value, personal hunger trigger. So I might go, say, from a 79 up to an 82 or something. I don't know. I've never used the maintenance button. I've always just sort of set the app aside for a while and just kept track of my numbers in my own Excel sheet that I've been keeping for the last 4+ years. This next question isn't so much about how to do DDF or how to manage it, but one of the ladies is curious what round of DDF this is for you all. If it's not your first, did you have more success lowering your blood glucose the first round or subsequent rounds? So we have some answers here. One fellow says it's his first time. Another woman said that this is my third round. I never actually finished all 30 days of the prior 2 rounds. I got sick or something. She says my waking blood glucose dropped during each challenge, but unfortunately I didn't continue practicing the things I had learned about meal timing and the low carb, high protein breakfast in between challenges, so everything went back up. I learned that the challenge is there to learn about what is a sustainable lifestyle to keep on doing after it's over. After the challenge, you can switch to maintenance where the trigger is higher, but I like to take a break from the finger pricking. And then another lady says, this is at least my 4th or 5th round. I've lost track. I've taken Marty's other classes, which would be DataDriven macros and DataDriven micros. I've taken breaks. I would say it's gotten easier with subsequent rounds as my overall habits continue to improve over time. I'm not diabetic, so I am less focused on lowering my number than I used to be, and I don't stress out if it doesn't move for a week, as I understand my body needs time to adjust to the new normal. I learn something new with each round. And let's see. Another lady adds, this time I've mostly been eating from Marty's high P&E recipes. That's the protein to energy idea that we share here in the Data-Driven Fasting. I'm not sure if I've gone into that or not in my other videos. And doing that has definitely made DDF a lot easier this time. So basically the protein to energy recipe or foods would be something that has a high amount of protein percentage-wise, but a low amount of energy, fats and carbs. So, okay, so the last comment that I'll share is this lady says, no idea, 7th or 8th round. I know the first few I didn't get very far, felt overwhelmed, and gave up. Which I don't understand why I did that now, as it's really pretty easy once the habits are set. I've done, I think, at least 5 from start to finish. My waking glucose has been steady since early on, in part because I now stop eating much earlier in the day. I still have a love-hate relationship with carbs I have to figure out, but all in all, I've been pretty consistent with my blood glucose since the first few challenges. Except December, between knee replacement and the holidays, I was in a dietary nightmare. So that's interesting that people gave their feedback, and I don't know how many of these I've done. Quite a lot. I keep participating because I like to help others. I like to be there to encourage them, and I pick up something new every time. I think, oh, I kind of know it all, but no, I learn new things, the fine points, with almost every time I participate or I spend more time reading Marty's blog posts. So maybe I just need to review over and over again to get things in my head. One last thing I'll share from the group that's participating together right now is this person offered this tip about how they handle one of their meals. This may sound weird, but I'm not a coffee drinker. I brew a big pot of tea and add collagen or whey protein powder, a bit of nut milk, maybe some unsweetened syrup, sometimes a raw egg or egg white, blend them all together with the tea using my hand blender. I work from home, so I usually sip this concoction. I'm adding in that word. It's a concoction. I usually sip this while Zooming with my first client of the day. I find that this mixture brings down my normally high blood glucose. Evidently, this person is dealing with Dawn phenomenon of type 2 diabetes. So they're type 2 diabetic and they're having the Dawn phenomenon, which is one of the topics that can be learned about coming into this group. DataDrivenFasting.com, OptimizingNutrition.com, joining for free, and searching around for information. Okay, I've got to go back to the sentence. I find that this brings down my normally high blood glucose and puts me on an even keel for the day. I then eat to the meter 1 or 2 meals a day. And Marty comments, sounds like a great routine. I have one last one I think would be interesting to share. A person asks a question about a specific food for protein. Please advise if tofu is okay to eat, as I have heard contradicting views. Marty answers, tofu is okay. Meat and seafood might give you more bioavailable protein with less calories. We feature tofu in our vegetarian recipes, but it doesn't rank so well overall in terms of nutrient density or satiety. Interesting. I can see that this video has gone to about 35 minutes, so I think I've covered enough. Time to wrap it up. and spend some of the evening with my husband. Thank you very much for watching my video, and I hope to be able to make another one for you tomorrow.